I'm talking to Beverley Beech, the chair of AIMS, and we would like to know how and why AIMS started in the first place.
Well, it started in 1960 when a woman called Sally Willington, who was our past president, wrote to a national newspaper about the way women were treated in hospital. And she had a deluge of letters saying how appalling the care was. And they decided to start the Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Pregnant Women.
I never knew it was called that.
No.
Brilliant.
And it went down like a lead balloon. So shortly afterwards they changed the title to the Association for Improvements in the Maternity Services. And initially it was trying to improve things in hospitals, but then of course it slowly developed into other issues. At the time in the 1960s there was a report, the Peel report, which recommended that there should be provision for 100% of women to birth in hospital. But of course that was immediately interpreted by the obstetricians as every woman should give birth in hospital. So that really led the drive to get everybody in. They had no evidence whatsoever that hospital improved care, and they still don't. But that was the image, and that's the propaganda women are sold, that you're safe having your baby in hospital, when the reality is quite different if you're a fit and healthy woman.
As shown by the birthplace study a couple of years ago.
Including Marjorie Tew, who in the 1970s did a study which showed that women were safer having their babies at home, and in every single risk group but one. And those were the very, very high-risk women, and she didn't have enough numbers to really show a statistical difference. But it was safer for every single risk group to have their baby at home. And of course, since then, there has been the birthplace study, which has also shown that you're safer if you're fit and healthy having your baby at home or in a midwifery unit and not going into an obstetric unit. They cause an enormous amount of damage, and the population just believes that they're safe in there, and they don't realise just how many women and babies have problems, often as a direct result of the unnecessary interventions that they have. For example, caesarean sections. The World Health Organization has said there is no health improvement for women when caesarean sections exceed 10%, and yet we have in some hospitals over 25% of women having caesarean sections. It's an actual national disgrace.
Well, London is pushing 30%, isn't it?
Oh, and some hospitals are up to 33%.
And we're one of the better countries in the world.
Allegedly.
So, over the more than 50 years that AIMS has been in operation, what has it been lobbying on? What would you regard as its successes?
Well, we got fathers into the labour ward.
Fantastic.
That was an early one. Fathers weren't allowed in, and so that was an early campaign. We campaigned on home births, and that's been going on since the 1970s, when AIMS woke up to the fact that women were being pushed into hospitals, and then decided to campaign on home birth. And it was done on the basis that it was a woman's right to decide where she'd have her baby. And it wasn't until Marjorie Tew produced her statistics that we changed the focus to women having their babies at home because it's safer. And we've campaigned to try and reduce the induction rate. That hasn't been at all successful, and there's still far too many inductions. We campaigned to reduce the numbers of episiotomies. I think one of our most successful campaigns was as a result of me writing an article saying that normal birth rarely took place in hospitals. I doubted that 10% of women had normal births in British hospitals. And it provoked a midwife, Sue Down, into doing a study which showed, she did it in 4 different sized hospitals in the northeast, and she found that only 1 in 6 first-time mothers had a normal physiological birth, and only 1 in 3 women with subsequent babies had a physiological birth.
And quite apart from the effect on the women, think of the effect of that on the babies throughout their lives.
Well, exactly, absolutely. But then it sort of generated a whole discussion of what was normal birth. And of course, normal to the majority of the population was go in, have your waters broken, have a drip set up, have an epidural, have an episiotomy, push the baby out, and that was classed as a normal birth.
Because it came out through the vagina?
Because it came out through the vagina without the use of forceps or ventures. So we managed to slowly change the attitude of that. And I suppose it's taken on an international project, because so many countries now are talking about normal births and the lack of normal births in their countries.
We in KG Hypnobirthing have found many of the hospitals in the north actually more advanced in the terms of normal births than those in the south, possibly because they never got quite so far into medicalised births. I'm not sure if you find that too.
I don't know. I don't think we've ever broken it down that much.
It's only an impression. It's not a statistic.
I think when people approach our helpline, they don't always say where they are. Or if they send emails, they don't always say where they are.
Of course.
So you just answer the question and you don't get the details of
What
I'm in Cornwall or Northumberland.
What about birthing pools? Have you been lobbying on that?
Yes, in fact, AIMS organised the first international water birth conference in order to stimulate interest and get people involved in water birth. And it was a very successful conference too. But water birth, I mean, we're still campaigning on water birth. So many hospitals have a token pool, and then you have to have a fight to get in it, and various reasons why you can't. And when you look at the statistics, so few women actually give birth in water.
We find in KG Hypnobirthing, maybe partly because births tend to be so quick, that more women don't get into a pool because it's not full in time than because somebody else is in it.
Yes.
Do you find that?
Yeah, well, I have heard of this. And I think with hypnobirthing, it makes the women are so much more relaxed, and they're so more accepting of the birth is going to go. I think it comes as a surprise to many doctors and midwives.
Indeed.
That this woman can't possibly be in labour.
I know that AIMS started in the UK and does fantastic work in the UK. What about in other countries?
Well, we have a network throughout the world, really, of contacts in other countries, and AIMS is a network. We're quite small, really, in comparison to other organisations. We run on a shoestring. We have no paid staff. We all work voluntarily, and so because we're a network, people come to us with questions about research or the kind of birth they want, and then we give them the information. And one of the things that we've done in recent years is we got some funding from the lottery to enable us to start producing books on specific subjects, and those over the years have slowly grown. So we've got a whole range of books which answer the questions.